I first found the mirror in the back of an old antique shop on a rainy afternoon. It was covered with a thick layer of dust, tucked behind broken lamps and splintered chairs. Something about it drew me in. It wasn't its size or ornate frame, it was the weight of it. The feeling that it wasn't just reflecting my face, but something deeper. Something watching from behind the glass. The shopkeeper was an old man with a voice like sandpaper. He warned me as I bought it. "That mirror shows things no man should see. Leave it be." But I didn't listen. How could I? After what had been done to me, after the betrayals, the humiliations, the lies, I was desperate for something, anything to level the scales. I took it home, setting it in the corner of my dim apartment. At first, it was just a mirror. But that changed the night I brought over Tom, the boss who had taken credit for my work and left me broken and jobless. I was drinking too much, seething with rage. Tom leaned against the wall, laughing, bragging about his latest scheme. When he glanced at the mirror, his face paled. He stepped closer, staring at his reflection. I followed his gaze. In the glass, his reflection wasn't showing him now. It was showing him pinning a woman down, her screams muffled, his face twisted with cruelty. I froze, my stomach turning to ice. Tom turned away from the mirror, but I saw the guilt in his eyes. He knew. He tried to laugh it off, but his hands trembled. He made an excuse to leave, but I had seen enough. That night, I sent an anonymous message to his wife, attaching a still image from a recording I made of the mirror. It didn't take long for her to leave him. The news broke the next day. Tom, disgraced, fired, his family gone. He called me, begged me to help, but I only smiled. I realized then that the mirror didn't just reflect light, it revealed darkness. It showed the hidden sins of anyone who gazed into it, exposing the truth that no one wanted to see. And I had it. I started bringing in more people. Alex, the friend who had stolen my girlfriend. He laughed, sipped his drink, and looked into the mirror. The glass shimmered, and there he was, forcing a coworker to cover up his fraud, threatening her family if she spoke out. I sent the images to his company's HR, carefully masked. Within days, he was fired, his reputation shattered. Then there was Becca, the girl who'd spread lies about me in college, the one who'd ruined my scholarship with her stories. The mirror showed her selling exam answers, blackmailing professors, even taking part in a brutal hazing that left a freshman in the hospital. I recorded it all, sent it anonymously to the university. Becca's name was dragged through the mud, her degree revoked, her future gone. I felt powerful. For the first time in years, I was in control. The people who had hurt me were falling, one by one, each undone by the secrets they thought were safe. But the mirror wasn't satisfied. Late one night, I was woken by a faint creaking sound. I turned to the mirror, and in its surface, my own reflection was warped, twisted. It wasn't showing my sins. It was showing a version of me. Hands slick with blood, eyes cold and empty. It whispered, though no sound escaped its frame. It wanted more. I dismissed it at first, blaming exhaustion or drink. But the feeling lingered. The mirror was hungry, and I had fed it too much to stop now. The next day, I brought in Darren, the neighbor who had slashed my tires and vandalized my door. He scoffed at the mirror, but his face blanched when it revealed him beating his wife, screaming threats at his children. I sent the images to the police. Darren was arrested that night. But after I shut the door, I turned to the mirror and saw it pulsing, dark veins crawling across its surface. My own face looked back at me, but my eyes were black pits. I heard the whisper again, louder this time. It wasn't enough. I realized the mirror wasn't just a tool, it was something older, something alive. It had given me power, but it demanded payment. It wanted not just secrets, but sacrifices. I was already in too deep to stop, and I wasn't done. The mirror grew heavier in my apartment, its dark surface rippling like water when no one was near. I tried to ignore it, to tell myself I was imagining things, but its pull was undeniable. When I slept, it whispered in my dreams, murmuring of power and vengeance. When I was awake, its reflection warped and shimmered. Even when I was alone, it wasn't satisfied with secrets and ruined reputations anymore. The night after Darren's arrest, I woke to a sharp, insistent tapping. My eyes snapped open, my heart racing. The mirror was pulsing, a dull glow seeping from its edges. I stood, the cold floor biting into my bare feet, and stepped closer. My reflection was gone. Instead, the glass showed a darkened room. One I didn't recognize at first. Then I realized it was Darren's jail cell. He was there, slumped on the bench, shivering. The mirror whispered, its voice a hiss of silk and broken glass. He escaped justice. He lives. He must be punished. I stared into the depths of the glass, horrified. The mirror's image shifted, showing me a vision of Darren, alone, no guards, no witnesses. It was offering me an opportunity. An invitation. I should have turned away. I should have smashed the mirror and thrown the pieces into the river. But I didn't. I felt the weight of every betrayal, every scar I'd endured. And I was so tired of being powerless. I dressed in silence, left my apartment, and drove through the night. The mirror had shown me the path to an isolated transport van Darren would be in, a location deep in the industrial district. The van was unguarded, parked in the shadows behind a processing plant. I stood there for a long time, gripping the crowbar I had brought, my breath steaming in the cold. Darren's face flickered in my mind, the smug grin, the fists pounding into his wife's face, the sneer when he'd slashed my tires. I heard the mirror whisper again, urging me forward. I smashed the lock, pulled the door open. Darren woke with a start, confusion and fear in his eyes. Before he could speak, I brought the crowbar down, once, twice, over and over. His skull cracked, blood spilling onto the concrete. When it was done, I stood over his lifeless body, my hands slick and trembling. The mirror's whispers faded into silence. I returned home, shaking, the weight of my actions pressing down on me. But the mirror was calm, its surface smooth and dark, as if satisfied. It had taken what it wanted. For days, I couldn't eat, couldn't sleep. I expected the police to come for me, but they never did. Darren's death was ruled a violent escape attempt. The whispers from the mirror returned, softer now, but insistent. More, it said. Justice for the guilty. I told myself it was justice, these people deserved it. I was just the hand delivering it. The next was Lisa, the woman who had spread rumors about me at work, leading to my firing. She had watched me sink while she rose on the backs of others. I invited her over under the pretense of reconciliation, a chance to clear the air. She arrived, all false smiles and condescending charm. The mirror showed her true face, embezzling funds, coercing employees, laughing as a young man took his own life because of her life. The mirror demanded more. I waited until she was alone in the bathroom, then confronted her with the reflection of her sins. She panicked, tried to flee, but the mirror's pull was stronger. It locked the door, trapping her in her own reflection. I watched as her body twisted and snapped, as her own darkness consumed her. When the door finally unlocked, she was gone, leaving only a smear of blood on the mirror's surface. I began to lose track of the days. My apartment became a shrine to the mirror, its whispers guiding me, its hunger growing. The list of those who had wronged me seemed endless. Names scratched into notebooks, faces reflected in the glass. Each time the mirror showed me their darkest deeds, each more grotesque than the last. It was no longer about revenge. It was about feeding the mirror, about satisfying the thing that had given me power. But one night, as I stared into the glass, the reflection shifted. It wasn't showing me someone else's sin. It was showing me. My hands drenched in blood, my face hollow and lifeless, my eyes consumed by the same black pits that had stared out at me before. The mirror whispered, "The price must be paid." For the first time I felt fear, not of what I'd done, but of what the mirror was turning me into. I tried to turn away from the mirror, but it wouldn't let me. Its reflection followed me wherever I went. On the backs of spoons, the sheen of rain-soaked streets, the slick surface of my phone screen. My face haunted me, smeared with blood, eyes blackened like burnt coals. At night, the mirror's whispers grew louder. It no longer coaxed or tempted, it demanded. More, it hissed. More. I barricaded the mirror behind heavy curtains, shoved it into the corner of my apartment, but the pressure in my skull only grew heavier. The names of those who had wronged me bubbled up unbidden. Ethan, the landlord who had evicted me after my job loss. Claire, the ex who had humiliated me before everyone I knew. Marcus, the teacher who had mocked me in front of the class when I was a kid. Each name twisted like a knife in my gut, and the mirror remembered them all. One night, after hours of pacing and drinking, I tore back the curtain and confronted the glass. "What do you want from me?" I shouted. The reflection rippled, my face stared back, lips curling into a smile not my own. My voice, low and guttural, echoed through the room. "I gave you power. Now you must give me blood. You cannot stop. You are mine." I smashed my fists against the mirror, but it did not crack. Instead, it swallowed my blows, my fists sinking into cold, wet glass. Panic clawed at me as the reflection twisted, showing images of my victims. Tom, Alex, Becca, Darren, Lisa, each one trapped behind the glass, their faces contorted in agony, their hands pressed against the inside. I stumbled back, bile rising in my throat. But when I turned away, the whispers chased me. "You started this. You opened the door. Now you must finish it." In a haze of fear and desperation, I sought out Marcus, the teacher who had mocked me, fueling years of humiliation. The mirror guided me, showing his face in its depths, revealing his hidden crimes, embezzling school funds, abusing his position, destroying the futures of students he disliked. I confronted him in his suburban home, the mirror tucked under my arm. I forced him to look. He screamed, denying what he saw, but the glass wouldn't release him. It wrapped around his reflection, pulling him into the depths. When I stepped back, only a smear of blood remained where his body had been. The mirror pulsed with satisfaction, but its hunger deepened. It began to show me visions of strangers, faces I had never seen, their sins laid bare. It wanted more. It didn't care if they had wronged me. It demanded souls. I locked myself away, refusing to leave my apartment. I covered every reflective surface, sealed the mirror in a thick tarp, but still it whispered. "You can't stop. You need me. Without me, you are nothing." Sleep became impossible. The faces of my victims haunted me, their silent screams echoing in my mind. The reflection of myself in every surface grew darker, more twisted. I saw my own hands around my throat, my own eyes gleaming with a malevolent light. In a moment of clarity or madness, I realized what the mirror was. It wasn't just a window into sins. It was a trap, a parasite, a thing that fed on guilt and rage, twisting its victims into monsters. And I had let it in. I sat in the center of my apartment, the mirror propped in front of me, its surface rippling like a dark sea. My face stared back, half shadowed, half devoured. "You'll never let me go," I whispered. The mirror's voice curled around me like smoke. "Not until you finish what you started." I knew then what I had to do. I sat cross-legged before the mirror, the tarp torn away, its black surface pulsing softly like a living heart. My apartment was cold and silent. The floor around me was littered with empty bottles, torn notebooks, and scraps of names, people I had already destroyed. The weight of it pressed down on me like a mountain. The mirror's surface flickered, revealing faces, one after another, their mouths open in soundless screams. My victims. The mirror wanted more. I hadn't slept in days. Food turned to ash in my mouth. Every time I blinked, the mirror showed me things. Things I had done, things I had become. I wasn't a man anymore. I was the vessel for something ancient, cruel, and hungry. You made me, I said aloud. My voice was brittle. You used me. No, the mirror whispered. You used me first. You wanted vengeance. You wanted to hurt them. I only gave you the means. It was right. The mirror hadn't killed anyone. I had. It had shown me what was hidden. I had chosen to break bones, to spill blood, to smile when lives crumbled. I had justified it with the word justice. But it was never about justice. It was about control, about making them feel helpless like I once did. And now, I was just like them. The mirror pulsed again. I saw myself, standing in a shadowed room, hands raised, face lit with glee as someone screamed. It wasn't a past victim. It was someone new. Someone innocent. A projection of what I would become if I obeyed again. The mirror promised power, always power. It would never stop. It would consume me next. I stood, my knees cracking, and lifted the mirror with both arms. Its weight was immense, far more than glass and wood should weigh. It fought me, its whispers turning shrill, its surface writhing with images, Tom bleeding on the pavement, Becca clawing at unseen hands, Darren's skull caving in beneath my rage, my victims reaching for me, begging me to stop. But I didn't stop. I carried the mirror into the bathroom, turned on the tub, and let the water run hot until the air steamed. I smashed every reflective surface, the medicine cabinet, the chrome faucet, even my phone screen. I stripped the mirror of its frame, wood splintering under my hands, and dragged it to the bathtub. You can't exist without me, I said, but I can live without you. You will never be clean, it hissed. I didn't answer. I submerged the mirror in the water. It resisted, thrashing like a living thing. The water boiled where it touched, but I pressed down, harder. The glass cracked, the surface rippled. My reflection stared back one last time. Bloodshot eyes, haunted face. A ghost of who I once was. Then it shattered. The water went still. The whispers stopped. I collapsed on the floor, soaked, burned, but alive. The room was quiet. My head was quiet. That night, I slept for the first time in months. I dreamed of silence. In the weeks that followed, I disappeared. I sold everything, left the city, and moved to a small town no one had heard of. I took a job at a hardware store, lived in a room above it, and spoke to no one unless I had to. The nightmares came, but less often. The guilt never faded, but I learned to carry it. Sometimes, when I passed store windows or puddles after rain, I caught glimpses. My reflection, just slightly off, watching, waiting. But I never let it in. I never listened. The mirror was gone, but the sins it showed were mine to live with. And I would, because I had seen what it turned me into, and I would never be that man again.